Good morning, everyone. Okay, good morning. That should not echo now. What's happening for you? Yeah, those are roses. The kittens don't go outside, not yet anyhow. And so this is the first time that she's smelling roses. What do you think? Yeah. Can I have this? Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome back, and welcome again to the summer immersion that we're doing. Where I'm focusing on the chakras and the koshas. And I'm trying to include the reflexes that we also have. They're called neurological reflexes or developmental reflexes, the reflexes that we have as a part of our inherent species design. So like she has a reflex to try tasting the rose. That's probably not going to be that delicious. No, please don't do that. I don't want you to knock it over. No? Okay. I shall touch it with a finger, keep it stable while you explore. So last week I was talking about this balance between having stability before you have the reaching reflex, having stability before the adventure, having enough stability for the opportunities, the spontaneity, the creativity. So we're going to be looking at the first and second chakra and how they collaborate, how they work together. So first chakra is called the root, and second chakra is called the sacral chakra, with Muladhara and Svadhistana. Muladhara, Mula means root, and Svad means the self. Svadhisthana means the home of the self. Like the word Svadhyaya, Svad means the study of the self, and the word Svadhyaya, we are inquiring into who we are. So Svadhisthana means self, capital S, the home of the self. So please take a comfortable seat. You can rest your hands in the mudra that we've been using. One palm goes in the palm of the other. You're welcome to close your eyes. So at the base chakra, at the root, we have our home with the earth. And at the second chakra, the inner home of the self. Nope. The element for the first chakra is the earth. And the element for the second chakra is water. And begin to welcome your breath down into your lower abdomen, if you haven't yet. And try to sense the breath as one way that you reconnect to that indwelling home. I'm going to recommend that the breath that you're working with to start your practice is a gentle kind of undulation. So don't think too mathematically right now or too strictly with measurement, but to sense the inflow and the outflow of the breath. Like you might, if you were watching a river, you will be taking in the gentle undulation of the river. So at the second chakra, we also have this sort of renaissance that we go through in the earliest part of our life. Our senses begin to turn on. Of course, we are born with our senses, hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling. And then there's this renaissance, this sort of burgeoning forth of exploration with the senses. And that is also when we start crawling about and exploring more adventuresomely. We begin drooling more, putting things in our mouths. The water element is coming forth. We are touching, seeing, hearing, exploring, feeling in this way. So the second chakra is associated with a developmental part of our life where we go from infancy into being a toddler in that phase of life. With respect for the process that is inherent in you, and then within that process, there's the you that you think of as you. Please bring your hands to your heart. And for the second chakra, the chant that we'll sing is Asatoma Satgamaya. Let's begin. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. You may bow your head to your heart and release your hands. Please open your eyes. So the color of the first chakra is red, a deep red color. And the color of the second chakra is orange, which is within this rose. And the color of the third chakra is yellow. I don't know if you can see that, how it becomes really brilliant yellow deep inside. Later, I'll try to remember to bring it up close. So this design for this rose is multicolor, deep red, and then you have the orange and the bright yellow at the very center of the rose. And these roses were gifted to me last night from Robert Beatty, who some of you met during the Brighton Bush weekend. And we had a visit last night here in the garden, and he brought part of his garden to add to my garden. So these are the colors of the chakras. He didn't know that we were doing this immersion. It just happens to be those are the kinds of roses he's growing in his home, in his garden. So let's proceed then with a sense of the first chakra is a base, for the second chakra, we're going to build on last week's pranayama and these explorations in through here. So start with the circles that we were doing, please. And you can go with whichever direction you feel is intuitive for you. This circling about is something where you can sense, well, what is the vitality or the muddiness of the inner belly right now? Go the other way, please. Like how unctuous, the word for this region of the body would be unctuous. And we get to that because earth and water are the elements of the kapha dosha. And the kapha dosha, please change, is the dosha that is described as being more unctuous, more like fluid, like I often say, like olive oil. If you were to spill that on the counter and then rub your hand in it, please change again. That feeling of the oil is unctuous. Okay, let's start to make this circle. We're going to try to include the arms. So if you clasp the hands, reach and return. So notice that when you reach forward, you need to have the stability of the pelvis, change directions. You need that stable center for the process of not falling over. And maybe you do fall over and we don't notice it because we're all preoccupied with ourselves not falling over. Let's go the other way again, please. And then we're going to take this until the arms go up overhead. So come up and see if you can make a circle as if the heels of your hands were drawing a circle on the ceiling. Notice how you maintain stability. And then make that circle ever slightly smaller on the circle of the ceiling. So you have like a little spiral until you come to a still point, and please press up while you drop the breath down into the belly. And then exhale, please push out to the sides of the room, and let's pause with the heels of the hands pointing out. Pull the fingers back towards your ears. You might feel sensations running down your forearms, along your wrists, into your fingers, your thumbs. And then exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. And now just sitting comfortably as you prefer for Kapalabhati, we're going to go side to side. Place your hands up on your shoulders. Now this rotation, again, we are trying to sort of stimulate the lower hara, the dantian is called in Chinese medicine. We also want to use the diaphragm and kind of stimulate this region of the body as well. We're waking up in the morning. This is a kriya, a cleansing practice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now come to center and inhale, raise your arms up. Suspend. Exhale, push out. And come all the way down. Hands to your lap. And drop your mind down into the pelvis. Astoma Sat Gamaya Tamsoma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Please bring the right hand up. We're going to do Kapalabhati left nostril and then right, left, right. So if you are still learning it, you can go 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, and then 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, like Shiva's drum going back and forth like that. That little drum and the tassels make the sound on the drum. So first 2 fingers in. You begin by closing the right nostril and then 5 rapid exhales on the left, and then we switch to the right. Exhale completely. Inhale both nostrils, release your right hand to your lap. Suspend the inhale, please. Exhale completely. And drop your attention down into the first and second chakra, down into the pelvis. And now bring the right hand up, please. Close the right nostril. Inhale left side only. Long inhalation. Exhale right nostril, a long, slow exhale. Inhale right side. And proceed with Nadi Shodhana at your own pace, letting the breath be unctuous like a river. Don't become too dogmatic or mathematical. Continue feeling into the breath, moving through your body. Nadi Shodhana. Finish with your next exhale through the left nostril. And then once more, rest your hand in your lap. Drop your attention down into the base and the second chakra. Astoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Please put aside your blankets and rise up to stand in Prachihara. So take a wide stance and let's walk the hands forward. So I'm going to ask you to consider that when you're in the middle here, that the spine is at the midline from your tailbone through the crown of your skull and to your fingertips. There's the midline. And then using the Ujjayi breath to keep you company, I'm going to ask you to slowly rotate your pelvis to the left or the right, you choose, and then rotate each of the vertebrae and your head and your eyes, even if they're closed. And then from the pelvis, start the rotation in the other direction. And try to really follow the unctuous nature of the movement. Don't just go to the destination, but be present with all the small movements along the way. So when you're taking your pelvis to the left and your head is the last thing to turn, there's going to be a point where the hips are ahead of the head on the path to the left. And vice versa, when you're going to the right, rotate the pelvis and try to go vertebrae by vertebrae, one region of the body to the next, and then finally your head and your gaze, even if the eyes are closed. The smoothness of this movement and the unctuous nature of the movement is really dependent upon not just your hands and feet as a foundation, but the quality of your mind for concentration. And a deep sense of patience, right? That so often, patience is one of the things that we need as parents of infants and toddlers and all ages. But so often the patience for the intrigue or the exploration, that can be challenging to sustain when somebody else's time frame feels like it's different rhythm than yours. Let's come back to center slowly, considering the quality of patience. With your hands out in front, I'm going to ask you to place your palms like you're about to do downward dog pose completely. And then inhale, roll yourself forward until you have a very wide stance for your feet in a kind of plank pose. And then raise the hips high and reach back to this wide-footed Prasarita where it looks like the hands are in downward dog pose. Let's inhale and roll the spine forward using cat pose. And then exhale and glide your sitting bones back using a kind of cow pose spine. And let that undulate through your spine at the pace that is your breath. Moving your body, not the pace that is mine, but the pace that is yours. So front to back, your hands and feet will represent the stability that you're needing. And the breath and the spine provide that sort of unctuous, exploratory process. Let's go back one more time. And then as you're able to, let's go heel, toe, and come into Uttanasana. So once the feet and hips are established, walk your hands back and come into your Uttanasana. And in this Uttanasana, it's okay to use blocks for the floor if it just feels like it's a little bit too far away for you right now. I'd like you to rock your hips back and side, forward, make a circle. Notice how smoothly or apprehensively, or if it's bumpy or staccato, like what is the nature of your circle? And can you change directions? I also don't recommend that you hyperextend your knees, so give a little peek at that for yourself. And see if you can rotate over your ankles so your feet aren't really rolling about so much as you're going over the ankle joints. And then, of course, the knees and the hip sockets. Change directions one more time. And then as you bring that to center, please shift your hands to your hips and rise up to standing. Okay, good morning again. Let's take 2 blocks if you have them, and mine are to the side. Hi, kitten. Doing okay there? You had a little snack on the rows, but then that was enough. Place your blocks to either side of your feet, please. Rise up to stand. Place your feet so they're hip distance apart. And then please raise your arms up overhead. Inhale. Okay, so we're going to have a little exploration in the chair pose. I'd like you to bend both knees. And when you come down to chair pose, sit your hips back so that your heels are grounded. The toes are important, but I want your body weight to start in your heels back here. Okay, and then exhale, keep the legs bent and curl down. Reach your arms back towards the wall behind you. And inhale, glide forward with your torso, your heart, and your arms. That is your reaching reflex. And then exhale, curl down, reach back, going inward. And inhale, raise your arms forward. Exhale, keeping the legs bent, curl down, reach back, almost like you're doing the cat pose. And once more, inhale, reach forward. And then exhale and pour yourself down. Place your palms firmly on the blocks. And as you press into your hands, straighten your legs to Uttanasana. So this Uttanasana, the torso is not dangling, you're pressing firmly down. That's called your push reflex. Notice that the belly becomes toned. And what I'm going to ask you to do here is on the inhale then, raise up through your heart, come up to your fingertips, glide forward, a long inhalation. And then exhale, bow over the legs, press firmly down into your palms, curl the deep low belly in. Inhale, glide forward, a long smooth inhale, rise up to your fingertips, open your throat. And exhale, deeply bow towards your legs, curling down and in. Once more, please. Notice that how your heart comes forward is dependent upon the stability of your legs. Of course, the flexibility of your hamstrings are there as well. Shift your hands to your hips, please, and rise up to standing. Now, keeping the legs and pelvis stable, reach back to interlace your fingers. Squeeze the shoulders back. And as you press your arms back like this, and you squeeze the shoulder blades in towards the heart, drop the tailbone down. So there's going to be a quality of tone right across the low abdomen. I sometimes call those your seatbelt muscles because that's where the seatbelt crosses your lap in the car or the airplane, for example. Now, when you're squeezing back here, keep the legs strong but without hyperextending your knees. Rotate your chest and heart to your right. Gaze up. Do not compromise the left side of the lower back. We're gazing up from the heart, the throat, and the eyes. Bring your head to level. Rotate to center. You might discover that you have a place of instability in the pelvis or the sacrum. So, for example, when you turn to your left with your heart, take your arms to the right. As you go to gaze up through the heart and the eyes, don't shift the pelvis or the sacrum. Keep the lumbar spine stable. And then level your gaze, come around to center and release the clasp of your hands. Let the arms dangle. And notice for a few moments that your hands are going to start getting heavier because the circulation is going to return down your arms. So that, like the water element, imagine that returning. The circulation, the rivers of the body on the inside. And then please step forward for Surya Namaskar. Join your palms together. So I often like to say that the river, the second chakra, is the water element. The river is supported by the riverbanks. And in this case, the riverbanks are our chaperoning of our senses and our breath and our practice. Energize your legs, please, and using the Ujjayi breath, raise up. And exhale, pour forward and down. Press into the two blocks with your palms. Inhale, rise back up, Bharadvajasana. And then exhale, go right and forward and down. Press into the two blocks for stability. Inhale, go left and rise. And exhale, left, forward and down. Inhale, right, rise, up. And now center for Uttanasana. Okay, glide the heart forward, please. And step back with your left toes. Inhale, rise, crescent. And then sustain the steadiness of the hips and pelvis here and observe the breath moving in and moving out from the abdomen. You can almost imagine yourself like a sea creature. There's like in the ocean, how those sea creatures, it's so amazing. Observe the breath moving in, moving out from the lower abdomen. You might see if you can keep your balance with your eyes closed. Trusting in your feet, your foundation, and also the pelvic floor, the belly, and also trusting in the breath. You can maintain your balance. You don't need to be rigid. If you do still need your eyes for balance, of course, keep them open. And when you next exhale, sweep your arms wide. Please come forward and place your right hand on your right knee and your left hand on your block. And twist your upper body to the right. I'd like you to keep your right hand on your knee and your thigh so you can press firmly down with both arms. That's the push reflex. So you turn the inner belly to your right. If you keep the pelvis stable, the bony structure of the body stable, what you're rotating in the inner belly is like the inner organs, like squeezing a sponge to the right. And yet let it be breathable. Once more, inhale. And then exhale, place your right palm firmly on the blocks and step backwards to plank pose. Inhale, downward facing dog pose. And exhale, left foot forward, make the right toes firm behind you. Inhale, rise up. The belly breathing like a sea creature in the ocean. And you may again choose to close your eyes. When you close your eyes, if that means that your balance is moving a little bit, like a little bit unctuous, you may play with that, of course. If your balance becomes apprehensive, if you start to touch something like apprehension, think about that as a response in the body that makes sense. You don't have to sort of cater to it or amplify it, but if you notice it, allow it. See if you can firm up the stability of your feet, your inner confidence. And then with an exhale, let's take the arms wide, come forward, place your left hand on your left knee and your right palm on your block, and please twist to your left. Press down with the push reflex with both arms. So the inner belly has then the freedom to really breathe because you're not using your abdominal muscles to sustain the twist. They're allowed to be elastic for the inhale and the exhale. And one more time, as you now exhale, place your palms firmly on the blocks and step back to plank pose. And then inhale, raise your hips high to downward facing dog pose. Inhale, roll forward using a cat pose spine. Please come to plank. Exhale to the structure of your seal pose. Yeah, bring the knees down, point your toes. Inhale, light it up. And exhale, glide your shoulders back. Low cobra. Now I'll put the blocks aside and I'll back up on my mat so you can see me better. See if I can get there. Put the blocks aside. And as you lie on your abdomen, reach back and interlace your fingers. Bow your forehead to the floor. Raise the arms up behind you and roll them side to side. So as if you were drawing a line on the ceiling, left to right with your knuckles. And let the body roll with you. So you can roll across the forehead. Please don't bother your nose. Squeeze the shoulders back and the shoulder blades in towards the spine. When you next come towards center, go ahead and pause there. Energize your legs and your arms and shoulders. And as you inhale, rise up with your legs, your shoulders, your arms. This is called Salimbasana. And the pose will rock a little bit. When you're inhaling, you may go slightly up. When you're exhaling, the pose may come slightly down. Let's do it twice more. So you're right there resting on the lower belly at the second chakra. One more breath, please. Flare the toes. And then let's exhale, lower down. Place your hands beneath your shoulders and bow your forehead to the floor. Then inhale, press up to cat pose. Exhale, reach back to child's pose. Now in child's pose, you are again sort of massaging the inner belly, the pelvis. So I'd like you to keep the hands out in front, please, and press firmly down with both palms. So your hips are making a strong effort to reach back to your heels. And then walk your hands back towards your knees. Please rise up to kneeling. Now kneeling is a more stable base than standing because you have more surface area here. Reach back and interlace your fingers, please. Roll the shoulders back. And as you inhale, go up into a little back bend. Squeeze the arms back behind you. And then exhale and bow forward over the abdomen. Lightly touch your forehead to the floor. If that's too far down, I want you to put a couple of blocks there. And then inhale, roll up into a little kneeling back bend. And exhale, glide forward and down. Now for some of us, the knees are not going to be happy with this much kneeling. And in that case, you can do the same practice that we're doing right now by sitting in a chair with a chair in front of you. So you basically raise the floor by sitting in a chair and having a second chair in front of you. What's meaningful right here is that we're coming down to squeeze the belly. At the same time, we don't have the hands to support the journey. So you have to use the stability of the inner pelvis, the pelvic floor, the belly. And as you exhale to come down, that you're also massaging the inner belly. Let's do it twice more. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow forward. And then last time, rising up at your own pace. And exhale. Rest your hands, palms face down. Close your eyes. Put your attention down in the pelvis, whether you're kneeling or sitting in a chair right now. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamsoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Okay, please bring your blankets back to sit on, and I'm going to ask you to sit on your, let me get my lefts and rights sorted through here. You'll need your 2 blocks also, so you're going to sit on the right hip on the blanket. Yes, like this. So I'm sitting to the edge of the blanket because I want the left leg to come back a bit like Virasana or Vajrasana. And Did you just make that move, honey? Yeah. Okay. So when you're sitting like this, if this leg won't kneel comfortably, raise your seat up higher. So you can make like a little bench with some blocks and then put a blanket so you can have as you need. We don't want you to feel like you're already tipping to the right. So if possible, the hips are level right through here. And that's why we sit to the edge of the blanket. So there's room for the left foot to go under the left hip. Or for some, again, sitting up higher and the left heel will be beneath, but maybe not touching the left hip. And then we have a couple extra blocks here. Take the blocks around for a twist to your right. And let's focus the breath and the attention down into the lower abdomen. Now, as much as possible, I do want your pelvis to stay level. So you're rotating. And I know that for some, your right sitting bone is touching the blanket. For some, the left sitting bone is touching the left heel. For others, that left sitting bone may not be touching much. So give yourself the support you need so you feel stable. And then like a barber pole, you're rotating. And imagine that in this rotation, you're also rising up. Now, to the extent that you're able to, I'd like you to press your right arm down, press firmly into your right hand, the one that's behind you. And then inhale, raise your left arm up. And that is your reaching reflex. Now rotate a little more to your right, and if possible, bring your left hand down to the outside of your right thigh. You can turn your palm over so you've got your fingers to extend down to the outside of your right thigh. Secure your left hand to the outer right thigh. You may take your right hand onto your left hand to give it more security and begin to side bend to your left while maintaining the twist to your right. So your side bend is really, the right hip stays grounded on the blanket, please. Your side bend is really just a side bend from the place you were twisting. Keep the left hand strong on your outer right thigh. You might notice that your forearm is crossing the belly, giving a little restriction or like a little hug right there. Let's begin to keep the twist to the right, please, with your heart, but begin to rotate your gaze down to the left. Roll your right shoulder back now, and as you like, you can sweep your right arm past your right ear. Please keep the left fingertips fixed to the outer right thigh. We do want that stability there so that the stretch you're moving into is in the right inner belly, right lower back, right side waist. And then inhale, rise up with your right arm. Return to the twist, press down with your right palm against the block. Raise your left arm once more. And then untwist, come back around to home base. And let's change to the other side. So switch yourself about. Now you're going to have the left leg in, this is called Z formation. It's not really a Z, but we can go with it, right? When we could call it whatever we want. Let's just give it a name. So I turn my blankets a little bit diagonal because I want my left shin to reach the floor. So that's why they're on an angle. And the left hip is supported and the right hip may be on the right heel, or you might sit up higher as needed for your knees. take the 2 blocks and please twist to your left. While rotating, try to level the hips and turn vertebrae by vertebrae to your left. You can gaze over your left shoulder. The movement of the inner body. When you're twisting to your left, keep a half an eye on your right sitting bone. With the pelvis stable, you know that you're really turning in the inner belly. Press your left hand firmly down. Raise your right arm up. Without any sort of strain or competition from the left to the right twist, bring your right hand down to hold the outer left thigh. Notice the feeling tone of your breath and your mind. Keeping your right hand secured on your left thigh, you might place your left hand there for that security. Begin to side bend to your right, keeping the twist. It's okay if the forearm is crossing your abdomen snugly. That is a part of the process. Start gazing down past your right shoulder. And then sweep your left arm past your left ear. And please rise up with your inhale. Rotate your hands back to the 2 blocks. And then keeping your twist to your left, raise your right arm. And that is the reaching reflex. Rotate back around to center. And then placing the 2 blocks where you have them at the reach, please put your blankets aside. And come down to bridge pose with your 2 feet on the blocks. Like this. Like just get the setup, please. Okay, when you place the feet like this, they're just on the medium setting of the 2 blocks, they're just a little bit elevated, right? So if in this position, you can snuggle the shoulders down, raise up to bridge pose, your bridge pose is going to have your hips automatically more high from the floor because of your feet. So in this position, take the arms to a kind of robot pose and snuggle the shoulders under, press your upper arms firmly down, and then support the security of your bridge pose by the strength of your feet, your legs, your shoulders, your arms. And bring the breath down into the pelvis, into the pelvic basin.
Notice how you sustain the pelvic tilt. So the back of the sacrum wants to be long towards the tailbone. Your hamstrings do have responsibilities here. And as you exhale, start lowering your hips down to the floor, keeping a bit of the arch in the spine. And then take the shoulder blades out from under the bridge pose. Reach for your 2 blocks and place them so the legs can go into Supta Baddha Konasana like this. Rest your hands over your belly if that's comfortable to do. You may close your eyes, and this is a good chakra for us to consider, like, quieting the senses. So you might take your blanket as a Prachihara blanket. What that means is when you lie down, you can take the blanket and fold it to place it over the eyes, the head, the ears, and so on. Something like this. A Prachihara blanket means that you're giving the senses a chance to go inward. And since the senses have this renaissance that happens at the second chakra, I'll talk more about that this week, but since there is that renaissance there, this is a time where you want to send the senses back home to the seat of the self. So Shavasana, as always, is a time of integration and surrender, both. Allow your body to deeply rest and receive the nourishment of your practice.
The physical body becomes grounded and more still, while inside the physical body, the housekeeping chores are happening. The circulation, the lymph system, the organs, just allow the process like a sacred undertaking. There's nothing you have to do except bow to the process, allowing it. Let's deeply rest for a short time more. Let the physical body, where appropriate, get heavier. Notice the inner movement of prana, circulation, respiration. Now, keeping the body very still, allow the breath to just lightly return. Don't make any other movements yet. Just notice the rising and falling of the breath. There's a kind of wave-like action to it, like the ocean. The ocean on our planet is akin to the lungs of our physical bodies. You may slightly wiggle the toes, the fingers. In your own timing, bring your knees up to center and roll to your side. And then use your hands to bring yourself up to your seat. And rest your palms, one palm in the lap of the other. Let the mind drop down to come back home here. So this chant that I'm singing to you, you can sing with me, of course. It means, may I have discernment. May I know what is real, what is unreal, what is important, what is less important. May I have discernment. May I have good riverbanks for this vitality and these senses. You can sit very quietly and simply take in the sound. If there's an inspiration in you to also sing, you're welcome to do that. Asatoma Sat Gamaya Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Asatoma Sat Gamaya Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Asatoma Sat Gamaya Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Asatoma Sat Gamaya Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Asatoma Sat Gamaya Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya.
Please join your hands together at your heart. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. Let's place the forehead and the thumbs together. This gesture I learned the meaning from my teacher, Deobat Misha. We can say, may I remember those who are before me, those who are in front of me. May I remember those with whom I am with right now. May I remember them for a long time to come. May we install them in our hearts. We bring the hands down like this. May we hold each other in our hands. Thank you, everyone. And I will come up to say hi. I'll bring the roses. Both kittens are asleep, so I will not disturb them right now. Let's see. Here's what the roses look like. I'll try to keep it in your camera. So let's see if I can. It's kind of weird to look in the, I'm looking at the computer screen to show you this. How do I do it? Everything is like a little bit reversed. Okay, no, not that one. Let's go here. There we go. Let's see. Wow, that's really strange experience. There you go. Okay, you can see inside. The inside of the rose. Yeah. Now I'll take a seat actually. I don't think that you can have the phone mirror you on Zoom, so you're watching me sort that through. And that isn't just from my brain injury. I think anybody would have maybe some trouble with that part. Now let's see, I think I'm mirrored here. Okay, yeah, so we go. Whee, right in there. The red, orange, and yellow, you can see the back of the rose too. That's this. Yeah. Okay, and how are you? How are you feeling?